Hi, my name's Kate, and after listening to the sermon today, I just knew I needed to testify. I'm so grateful that we're part of a church that discusses the thing that Holy Spirit wants to deal within us. So where do I go back to? This past year, it's probably been like this full year. God has just been really wanting me to get it to understand the prosperity of the kingdom. And I I knew that this was an area years and years ago. I left for an exchange year away from home. I'm this like little country girl that lived on a farm her whole life, stayed in the same place. And when he took me away for that year, I spent so many good moments with Jesus, and he would take me literally up on this hill and I would read the Bible, and he was just like slowly trying to get me to understand my issues with finances and what I was raised with that wasn't healthy. And it's been years. Here I am. I'm going to be 40 next month, and he's still working on me and teaching me about finances and his kingdom. So this past year, I've just been so unsettled in my heart, really struggling. Like, why do I feel stuck? And it's so good when we're in those places because we know that God's doing something that he's trying to release us from. He's trying to give us more freedom in some area. So here I am. I had joined a couple years ago a team to do ministry in the north with Bill Prankard. And Bill Prankard is friends with Kenneth Copeland. And several years ago, my husband had watched a documentary on Kenneth Copeland. Love those documentaries. They just love to slander anybody in any way. And so I never watched it with him, but he struggled with like, oh my goodness, like, yeah, like these guys in big time ministry, like Kenneth Copeland, like it cannot be of God, that here's like, has his own planes and, have all these things. Like it cannot be godly that there are people suffering, and look at these people that have so much money in the kingdom of God. So, and I kind of attached myself onto that thinking, but still I don't know who Kenneth Copeland is. I don't know him personally. I don't know anything about him. And so I don't usually hold true to many people's opinions. Well, here I am on this team. Our first time going up, we got stranded by a blizzard up north. And so Bill Prankard calls us and he says, okay, hey guys, I want you to know that I've, put the prayers out there for people to be praying for you guys as you're stranded and not getting into the community that you're supposed to go and serve. And I want you to know that my friend Kenneth Copeland, he contacted me and he said, if your team can get a chartered flight and everything is good with weather, I will pay for that chartered flight and get them into that community. Yes. Kenneth Copeland, a little tiny team of ours, was just like, yes. And he has given like $200,000 once for the people of the North to bring all leaders together from other communities and have a conference in Iqaluit. He has been pouring into Canada for many years. And so this was a great conversation on my team because I start laughing as soon as Bill announces this. And I tell my team after the call with Bill, I'm like, I got to tell you guys something. This is awesome because I can't wait to call my husband and tell him, guess who's going to try to fly your wife and the team into a community? Yeah, Kenneth Copeland, that guy you were talking about? Like, I just love that because we're so quick to judge. And so today's sermon, again, like how many times have I said to growing up in church and being to many different churches in my adult life, there's a lot of churches that don't teach wealth well. They don't teach prosperity well. And oftentimes it's the opposite of like it was said today in service. It's kind of like a curse word. Finances, prosperity is not a good thing. So now fast forward a little bit. Last summer, I was at a conference. Again, it was a Bill Prankard conference that I was there. I was really only wanting to go to love on the Nunavummiut, the people from the north who were coming down to be at the conference. And I financially have no money to go buy merch, and I had no desire to go look at merch tables at this conference. And so I was there for a few different sessions. And in between the one session day, I was out in the foyer area where all the merch tables were. And I just felt like God kept saying, you need to go over to Kenneth Copeland's merch table. I have no desire. I have no money. I don't want to really go and look. And so I go over, and like the first book I pick up, it's called The Power to Prosper in Troubled Times. And it's a devotional, daily devotional. And I'm looking at it and I just start laughing because I felt in my spirit like this joy, and Jesus just saying, I'm still not done. Like, there's still a lot of things you got to learn, Kate. And so I start sharing this same testimony I just shared with you with the lady at the desk. And she's just like, oh, like I've seen you on like a testimony thing for like this team going north. Like, that was you? I'm like, yeah, I got to tell you, like this ministry with Copeland, I'm serious. Like, it has been rocking me. And so when we were up there and I shared this with the team, the leader of the team educated me on understanding a little more about Kenneth Copeland's story. So here's another great story to talk about, because people think, oh, well, like this name it and claim it minister. He did not come from wealth at all. And when he was stepping out into ministry, the Lord kept showing him this property and saying, like, you were going to own that property. So you need to have faith. Whether you want to call it, name it, and claim it, it's up to you. But he said, have faith that that's going to be your property. He didn't know what that meant. He was hearing God and obeying, right? We hear God and obey in all things, past our wisdom that we think we have. So he then started to approach the owner of this land and was just curious, like, if he'd be willing to sell it. And this guy's like, I'm not even looking into selling my land. And so in faith, he gently says, well, I believe I'm going to own your land. And, was just being very confident in what the Lord has showed him. And so I don't know what the length of time was and what took place in between. But eventually this man came to Kenneth and said, okay, I'm willing to sell my land to you. And he buys, I don't know how much land it was. It was a big property. Well, within a year, it was quickly found that this land was full of oil. Right? Like, this stuff we can't make up. He didn't know. Kenneth had no idea. He wasn't going around saying, like, I'm going to be this man in the millions. He was just acting out in faith. He came from nothing, And so I just was so encouraged with that story. And so here we are. It was last summer. My husband and I are going through this devotional. We're still going through it. It's so full of meat and goodness. Like, the verses that stuck out to me. Pastor René said the verse today, and I was hoping she was going to say it, 2 Corinthians 8:9. And I think the last time I was here and testifying, I shared this verse too, because it just hit me in a new way when I read it in the devotional, about that Jesus came poor so that we wouldn't have to. And how I've, in many ways, have grown in my faith and understanding about healing, that I've in complete faith of that. He gave his body. He was brutally beaten so that we wouldn't have to go through sickness, that we wouldn't have to take that on all our lives and accept it as a curse, because he already broke that. He did the same thing with finances. He broke all of that when he shed his blood. And so I've been taught for many years to live like Jesus. Well, Jesus was a poor carpenter. Therefore, if we're going to be in the ministry, we should also be with that mentality that we're going to be poor. And it's just such false teaching. And so we need to be excited as a church that this is what God's bringing into our church. And so just again, with my journey, I was struggling. I started going to formal counseling, trying to figure out what is it that I'm struggling in. And then, so my last testimony coming here was my car had failed. And again, thinking that, okay, God gives me the wisdom, so I'm going to figure it out. How I'm going to find the money. I don't have any money to make payments. And again, God's just continually in his gentleman spirit, drawing us closer and saying, but yet I tell you not to doubt. Do you know what I say about how I provide for you? Do you know what I say about kingdom economy? Because if you do, this kind of thing doesn't worry you. Right. And then, it was encouraged by a friend, be single-minded, Kate. Be single-minded. You're going to be that wave tossed to and fro if you just don't stand and know. And as soon as I was like, yes, no more shopping for a car. Jesus, thank you that you're going to provide, because we have no money for any payments for any kind of car right now. We don't even have enough for a junker on the side of the street for $500. We don't even have that. And as soon as I decided and knew what to stand on, it is written in his word, I stand on that he provides in all things. Lo and behold, 2 weeks later, I was given a vehicle. There was someone else that testified. Victoria testified at church that she was given a vehicle. And now we've had Pastor Brad testify that he was given a vehicle. I'm telling you, when we stand on it and we declare, God will provide in all things, and he is bringing us into this next level of prosperity. And the journey that RA and I, my husband and I, are on when it comes to the business, I'm telling you, he's ripping everything out of us because we think we're constantly in lack. And I come up and I'm like, no, because God told me, stop looking at your numbers in your account. Stop looking at those things. That's all circumstantial. That's all right here. You know that you're a daughter of the King who has all the wealth of the world. So come and access it. And so, and another thing to testify to. So this is what I'm standing on. I'm having a moment of weakness. I come back from my missions trip this past March, get hit. My whole house has been hit several times with strep throat. And I'm just down, not keeping focused. I come back to work, and that morning I was struggling again, looking at my bank account, no money, and I decided to think about that. I decided to think about it. And that morning, before the kids came in, I'm a teacher, before the kids came in, one of my coworkers who has a faith in the Lord, struggles a little bit, but her and I have great talks. And she came in, she's like, hey, Kate, I know I got to run and you got your class coming soon, but I wanted to say to you this morning, I felt like I was supposed to say, like, you had mentioned back at Christmas time you had a miracle. And I never got a chance to ask you about the miracle. And I still want to know. My miracle was the car that I was going to tell her about. And I just love it because the grace of God, here I am being disobedient again, focusing on the negative, focusing on the crummy numbers lack of numbers in my bank account, whatever. And that morning he's like, are you going to testify? Do you remember all the good things? Because here I'm bringing you the opportunity to get your faith right, to get your focus right again, because you're not doing it this morning. And here's your opportunity. He's so graceful. He's so good to us. And I got to share again how good he is. So get ready, people, because there is good prosperity coming to this house.